Welcome. You've clicked yourself onto Three Guys and an iPad, the only mortgage focused podcast that comes with a prize in every box. And we also give away a toy with every episode. Hey, everybody, I'm Brian Rieger, and I am the co founder of Content Beacon. Welcome back for our return viewers. As always, I'm joined by our friend and partner at Content Beacon and co founder as well, Mr. Rick Graham. Rick, how are you today?
Good, Brian. It's good to see you.
That's good to be seen. Of course, we wouldn't be Three Guys without our good friend from Austin, Texas. He's a 45-year mortgage origination vet. He is the past president of Respro, and he is a certified mortgage banker, Mr. Kevin Breeland. Kevin, how's the weather in Austin today?
It is hot, hot, hot.
I was wondering, are you over or under 120 degrees? What's the over-under on that?
Under 120, over 100. So
Delightful.
typical July 31st.
Sounds about right. All right. Well, welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
Of course, this is where I make the shameless plug for Content Beacon. We are, of course, the premier B2B content marketing agency in the mortgage industry. If you're trying to reach brokers, if you're trying to reach correspondents, real estate agents, you name it, drop us a line or give us a call, and we'd love to see how we can help you. Also, if you're dying to see a guest or be a guest, or if there's a topic we've just missed and you think we should be covering it, by all means, please contact us. And again, we're up, I think, 8 likes on YouTube. So if you would do us the charity of hitting a thumbs up, we would be much obliged. All right. Well, we skipped our June podcast along with everyone else in the industry this June because we were all on vacation, and so were most of our clients. So, guys, did anything happen past June or July? Do you notice anything?
No. Kevin, what did you see? I didn't see much.
No, not much. All right. Well, we'll have to dig a little.
I went to Wyoming.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Well,
Yeah.
It's been a busy world, maybe not for mortgage volume, but there's definitely been a few developments since we were last year. So we're going to start off with our headline segment. We're not quoting any particular of our fine publications this week, just because these are things that everybody's talking about. So, okay, let's see. What's been the headline for the last 18 months? And that would be, of course, the rate, the market, the downturn, etc. So I'm going to toss this out to the other guys here. We're starting to see a few hopeful signs. Inflation seems to be cooling. The job market also seems to be cooling. We just learned before the recording of this show that the Fed's going to do what it does best for August. It's going to sit on the rate at least one more month. But I'm starting to sense maybe a little bit of hopefulness, either that or the antidepressants are kicking in. Is this another mirage, or are we finally nearing the end of the market downturn?
Kevin,
Well, I think the thing that we have to keep in mind is that when it comes to the Fed, everything can turn on a dime. And by that, I mean, it will always make a decision not to do something or to push something up faster than it will ever reverse course. But let's keep in mind that there's a few favorable things that are coming out now that the Fed has been kind of targeting, and they're within view as of this recording today. So the first thing to keep in mind is the Fed's favorite tracking of inflation, the PCE report, which is now at 2.5%. They're trying to get this down to 2%. So we're now within 0.5%, which, at one point in time, let's keep in mind, this was 7.1%. So it has come down quite a bit, and they see that as a direct correlation of the interest rate increases and other things that they've done in order to tighten the overall economic conditions. The other thing that we have to look at is the unemployment rate, which has slowly but surely been creeping up to now a overall 4.1%. Now, for as long as I've been in the business, I've always been told that the perfect economy is a 4% unemployment rate with a 2% inflation rate. And What that basically means is that at 4%, you basically have almost every able-bodied person in the United States who could work working, and that the other 4% will apprise of people who are rotating out of the labor market via retirement and things of that nature, to people who are rotating into the market who don't have a job yet, and to people who are unable to work and will never and won't be able to work ever. And that's kind of what the other 4% uh, population is. While I've never been a great proponent of those numbers, it's been the best benchmark throughout my career that I've kind of looked at and that the Fed uses. And so we're kind of at that number now. We're 2.5 PCE, 4.1 inflation. The Vegas money is now on a cut in September, and another cut maybe in December. So that would be 2 cuts as opposed to 1 cut or maybe no cuts in 2024. But let me remind all of you out there in podcast land that about this time last year, the pundits or talking heads, whichever category you want to put us all into, were also predicting 5 rate cuts in 2024. So I will tell you that the only person that knows what's really going to happen is the Fed chair himself, Jerome Powell. And as of today, he probably really doesn't know what he's going to do next.
Well, Rick, let me ask you, we on our way to a recovery? And if we are, is it sustainable?
Well, sustainable in our industry, in any cyclical business, that's hard to guarantee at any time, right? I agree with everything that Kevin said, and I'm hearing those same sentiments from other people in the industry right now. But the other thing I'm seeing across the board are more cuts. Even though there is plenty of reason, and I've heard people say, we think now that the business will turn around in the first quarter of 2025, that's half a year from now, right? So there are still people trying to figure out how are we going to keep the boat afloat between now and then. And an even bigger issue is one that I read about in an insight from Stratmore earlier this month. Garth Graham was talking about how to win the battle for the purchase money market. And his idea is that when the business comes back, and he wrote about refi in June, it's the same story. When it comes back, it's not going to come back equally to all companies. The companies that are going to win the business are going to be the ones that are prepared to win that business. And a big part of that is marketing. And Brian, I know we talk about marketing all the time, and we tell people, why is that the first thing you ever cut? And the obvious reason is that, that's the only thing that they can cut that's not part of their operational expense at that time. It's an investment for the future, right? So it gets cut back. But the big companies, especially big companies with servicing operations, have positioned themselves well to receive that business when it comes back. So those other companies that aren't, they need to be thinking now about exactly what they're going to do when the business does turn.
Well, Rick, I'm just going to jump in. We're obviously both reading the same first page of the marketer's hymnal. And of course, it's also a great ad pitch, but it's true, just like technology or other operational elements. And I know there are plenty of businesses out there right now that are struggling to make payroll, keep the lights on, whatever. Obviously, marketing's not your first concern. But for those that have any kind of a reserve or investor or that sort of thing, marketing does not start on a dime. It's not an instant sales generator. It takes a run up. Maybe you're lucky and it's a few weeks, but it's months. And just like technology, you don't want to put a new LOS in 2 days before the market. It's not like the market's going to turn with a switch flip, but these are the sort of things where if you can, and I am seeing multiple clients who are taking this time just to do that, is kind of revisit how they do business and prepare to capture the new business when it comes along. So with that, let's jump on and let's turn our attention to the elephant in the room. Without picking a candidate or getting political, we have to admit we're probably at the very beginning of what could be a historical election cycle. I think we're going to see we've already seen a lot of unusual things. We're going to continue to see that. And even just if it were just a quote unquote typical election cycle, we know that election years, especially every 4 years, the presidential election, are not business as usual for the mortgage industry. So, Kevin, I'm going to ask you first, unless Rick, you want to jump in too. How much of all of that, how much of an impact is all of that going to have on the mortgage industry and the economy?
Well, I think that the thing that we have to keep in mind, um, the president, the House, the Senate, they don't set interest rates. They don't. I mean, they have a lot of rhetoric around interest rates, but they don't set interest rates, and they don't set interest rate policy. That's up to the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve, is never up for election. It's an appointed seat by the president, and the terms are 4-year terms, and they're off cycle from the presidential election. I think Jerome Powell's term doesn't come up till
26, I think.
Yeah, 2026. Yeah. Um, so the Federal Reserve and the Fed chairman, that's who sets interest rates, and that's who deals with interest rates. So regardless of who's elected president, it should have, because the Fed is supposed to be an independent uh, entity from the president and from Congress, it should have little to no effect at all. And in fact, the first George Bush has publicly said many times that the reason he didn't get reelected is because Greenspan didn't cut interest rates during election season. Maybe that's true. Maybe that isn't. 1991 was a long time ago. But the reality of it is, did it play a role in it? Probably. Just like if the Fed makes one cut before November, will that have an effect? Yeah, probably not a lot, because it's only one cut, and the most it's going to be in all reality is a quarter to a half. So the impact of that cut would have minimal effect on an election, as my experience has taught me over the years. But that doesn't mean it can't, and it doesn't mean it won't. It just means that the Fed chairman is who sets this. And the Federal Reserve sets it. It's not whether it's President-elect Harris or President-elect Trump or current President Biden. They don't set interest rates, nor do they set interest rate policy.
And I think that's a really good thing, because I don't have any confidence that most of the people at that level of our federal government really understand anything about it, even though they will talk about it. And this story showed up on Weekly Real Estate News this week. President Trump was at a rally. He was interviewed by someone from Fox News, asked about what he would do to the homeownership problem. And he says, well, I got a solution for you. Vote for Trump. And yeah, great soundbite. If I was on their PR team, I might be really happy about this. But what does it say about the actual very real problem of home affordability in the country today? Nothing. And after 4 years of the present administration, I don't think they know anything about it either. So right. If it does have an impact on the election, it's just another example of the electioneering machine manipulating people to reach a conclusion that isn't backed by anything that our politicians are actually doing, in my opinion.
And you bring up a great point there, Rick, when you talk about affordability, and take kind of a shallow dive into affordability and what that really means. Affordability isn't something that a congressional policy can fix, and here's why. The very first thing you need in order to build a house is a piece of land. And what is one of the most protected constitutional rights of all Americans? It's property rights. And property rights are protected under the Constitution. So one, the federal government has no ability to dictate to you as a private citizen what you can or cannot sell your property for. Now, what the federal government can do to help in the affordability issue is take parts of the millions and millions and millions of acres that they hold throughout the United States and open them up to development, and then put certain levels of requirements in order for them to be developed. But we've also seen how well the federal government is as an administrator. So that would probably take, here's free land, and now you have the first $1 million starter home of all time. I mean, that would probably be the outcome, kind of tongue in cheek. So the reality of it is that affordability is not a congressional issue. It's a great talking point. It's a great talking point for a presidential candidate. It's a great talking point for a vice president candidate, since they don't really have much to talk about anyway. And when you take the members of Congress and the members of House who are always running for reelection, it's a great talking point in your home district. But the federal government can basically do nothing about affordability. So let's get past the property rights. You got a lot, Rick, that you've held on to for years. You want to sell it. Federal government or even the legislatures of Wisconsin cannot come in and tell you what you can sell it for. So you bought it for $1,000, held on to it for 10 years. And now you're going to sell it for $150,000. And other than your short-term capital gains that you got to deal with, that's a good deal. And everybody's high-fiving themselves in the Grant household when this is all done. So now you have the second issue. Well, you got to build it. Whoever bought that piece of land has to build a house on it now. So now you have to bring in all the pieces of the house. You have the concrete, you have the lumber, you have the roofing materials, you have the electrical, you have the plumbing, you have the wire, you have all of these things. So you not only have the hard supplies that continue to go up and down in our market, but you also have the laborers that come in, whether they're union or non-union. Just because they're non-union doesn't mean you're paying them $5.25 an hour. The reality of it is that all of these pieces play into the cost of a home. And then when the home gets built and a yard is put in and a fence is put up and people are moving in their furniture, if you have the whole transaction complete. But all of those pieces, and we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of pieces now, from the purchase of the land to the construction of the home, to the listing of the home, to the selling of the home, to the mortgage of the home, to the moving in of the home, to the movers who are doing the moving. I mean, all of this goes into the cost of a house. It's not just this house costs $300,000. There's a lot of other pieces that go into it. So at the end of the day, you can't legislate affordable housing. You can try, and we have seen many, many cases of this being tried and not being successful. So at the end of the day, affordable housing, if you want affordable housing, the only way to get it, to my knowledge, after watching the ebbs and flows of many economic cycles, is having a 2007 happen again, and nobody wants that. So that, you have to have a downturn in the market to bring the prices down, or, and let's take a page out of Dave Ramsey's page, you got to get a better job that pays you more money.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right, folks, we got to go put our resumes out. But, this is something I think a very interesting discussion. And it's certainly something we're going to return to quite a bit in the coming months, and including after the election, too. So right now, though, we're going to change gears a bit. We're going to do something we haven't done before. I'm kind of excited to see this. And our friend Rick Grant's going to take the lead here for a moment. He'd like to talk to us a bit and maybe discuss mentorship and development in the mortgage industry. So, Rick, take it away.
Thanks, Brian. So about 60 days ago, I turned 60 years of age, which gave me access to a lot of senior discounts. I thought that was great. But my wife was really worried about my mental health and worried that I might be depressed at this important milestone, which I guess affects some people more than others. I thought it was great. If I'm not going to be a wise old man, which indications now are that I probably won't ever do that, at least I could be an old man, right? But then when one of my high school buddies passed away and lost his battle to cancer, it brought home the fact to me very clearly, and Brian and I have talked about this in the past, that we are now, if life is a game, we are in the fourth quarter. People of my generation, the people that I've been writing about and reporting on and friends with for 25 years in this industry are aging out and passing on. Now, this isn't to get maudlin or all upset or worried, because I mean, life is a game. You live it as well as you can, and then it's over, right? That's just the way it is. That's the way it is. But the question that I've been coming back to over the past few weeks is, are we doing enough to prepare the next generation of leaders to take over the work we've been doing? Now, I know anytime an old person like me with gray hair starts talking to young people, they know everything. And thank goodness, because we had that same level of confidence when we were that age, and we need our future leaders to have that. But the ones that are really going to succeed are going to be the ones that can learn from the generation that preceded them. And we are running out of time for that. Now, I was going to put together a short video, but I realized quickly that I don't even know all the people that we've lost this year or last. But some of the ones I do know hit me personally pretty hard. I started the year with Dave Stevens passing away. We've all known him forever. He's been on our show a few times. Mm-hmm. Stan Rhodes recently passed away. He was a former president of ABN AMRO. Don Ionetti, Dominic, who's the founder of Doc Magic and was like the second person to ever hire me to do a freelance article, just passed away recently. And then other people that just segments of our industry know, like James Simmons, who was a hedge fund manager, and Thomas Burke was a Minnesota banking executive, and that's just this year. Last year, we lost a number of them, including Patricia Cook, and she was the former CEO of Finance of America. Don Curie, who was president of High Tech Lending. A year before that, we lost Timothy J. Forrester, CFO of United Wholesale Mortgage. And last year also, even though he wasn't one of our generation, Dan Gilbert, who is, tragically lost his son, who was only 26 last year. So all of these people in our lives are starting to move out. And now is the time in the fourth quarter for us to be thinking about giving some of that information back. And so I wanted this segment to be an open invitation to coaches and teachers and mentors and trainers and people that are actively trying to prepare the next generation of executives in our industry to take it from here. And I know there are great people out there. Laura Lasher, former president of mortgage at Arbor Bank, now runs Worthy Performance Group. Dan Green, formerly with Mortgage Cadence for so many years, is now doing Hangar 6 Consulting. And there's a bunch of others. There's Brian View, Brian Boyles, Brian Weiss, probably some other Brians out there, and so many other people who are doing their best now to prepare those who will follow us. So if you're one of them, or if you're a CEO and you've taken this mentorship idea very seriously, I want you to consider coming on the show with us. Now, we normally have a bunch of attorneys and our friends, and we talk about these high-level issues, and we talk about what's going to happen next in the business, and all that's still vitally important. But we're not going to be here for some of the things that happen next, right? So I want to hear from the people who are going to be preparing the people that are. And so just to end this kind of segment, guys, I would ask either one of you, is there anyone in particular that you want to call out and remember that we may have cycled out over the recent past?
You know, I'm going to mention one, I think, Rick, and I didn't know her well, but I knew people who did. And this was, of course, Regina Lowry. I believe this was last year. She was the first female elected chair of the Mortgage Bankers Association, another major contributor to the industry and really someone who helped move it forward. Kevin, how about you?
Well, other than the names that y'all have mentioned as far as people who have passed, I think the other thing that you also have to look at is we have a lot of people who are rotating out of the business who are retiring. And so they're not in the business anymore either. They've left the industry. People like Al Miller and other people that we know, I had his name right on the tip of my tongue.
It'll come back to you.
Joe Murin.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A good friend of the show, has been on our show a couple of times, but Joe has kind of semi-retired himself. I mean, these were industry giants. Most of us know, for example, most of us have known Al for a long time. and he retired last year. He and his wife are enjoying their retirement, as I'm sure Joe is enjoying his semi-retirement. I don't know that Joe will ever completely retire, but he's these are people that played major roles in our industry. Um, that anytime they were speaking anywhere, or I had the opportunity to talk to them, I would always listen and pay attention to what they had to say, and ask questions. And it never bothered me if my question was stupid, because I was asking because I didn't know. And that's why I was
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah.
And I didn't care if someone sitting next to me thought that was the dumbest thing they had ever heard. Believe me, I've been around long enough where I've heard a lot of dumb things myself. But,
That's a
you know,
good cue for me there, Kevin.
yeah,
I just want to
a lot of
clarify.
them have come from my own household. So,
Yes, no doubt. By the way, folks, I do want to clarify. Joe Muir, we're not eulogizing him yet. He's
Right.
alive and
Right.
well,
Yeah.
and
he's
if he
alive and
gets
well.
into this, he's going to come on here and kick all of our asses, truthfully. But
So is
I
Al. Al is alive and
yes,
well as well.
that's right. I did just sort of mention that Joe was a client for many years. I had that privilege, and I actually met him on my first day in the title industry. I was working for a trade publisher, and I helped produce their webinars and seminars and conferences and whatnot. And Joe was one of the first guests we ever had. Met him like in the first couple of weeks on the job, actually. And I've learned more from Joe than hundreds of other people. So if you are watching this, Joe, thanks. Let us know. We'd love to have you back on.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, we're
So,
so lucky in this
yeah.
industry that there's so many really good and experienced people, and all the financial services often gets kind of a bad rap because they don't. Most people don't understand what the people who work in this industry do, and what all is involved. They will if they listen to Kevin more talk about what's going on with, but the people that have actually guided companies to success in a market as volatile as this and cyclical as this, these are the people that need to be giving back now to the next generation that follow them. And I certainly hope they are.
And I would
oh,
also say this, and I don't know if you've seen this happen to you personally, Rick. Probably not, because you you occupy a very good high ground that people like myself don't always get the opportunity to occupy. But the reality of it is that the older you get, the less valuable people think you are. And I will tell you that, looking back on my career, the people I learned the most from, and the people that I had some of the deepest relationships with, were people who were older than me, who were as much as 20 years older than I was.
Yeah.
And not only did you at times have the opportunity to bring back the joy in what we were doing with them as well, but they were imparting knowledge on me that I, it's kind of like the parent knowledge you don't realize. So your child is standing there telling you the dog ate the
Right.
homework.
Right.
That's when you realize, oh, I've seen this show before.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the fact is I think one of the best things that we can do, or that the future of the mortgage industry should do, for people like, there's a young man on LinkedIn all the time, Greg Shear,
mm,
another friend of the show that we've had on a few times, Sean Graham, and people
Mm.
like that. These young men and women that are coming up, and I can say this behind me, I didn't create any great wake for them to follow, but they're younger than
To
I
be
am, and
argued.
they're coming up behind me. Don't forget about the people who paved the way. My career, and what I've always tried to do, and you can call BS on this if you choose to do so, that's fine. But I always wanted to leave the industry better than I found it.
Yeah.
And I've tried to impart my knowledge on people that I've worked with over the years, and I've tried to give back in ways that I could give back, not only with my money but also with my time. And I've tried to be very unselfish with both, and still raise a family and do all the things that you need to do. So at the end of the day, don't forget about the people in front, and don't forget about the people behind you. It takes all of us to make it work. Right now, our hearts and prayers are out to Barry Habib, who's fighting his own battle with cancer. There's another giant of the industry who, has imparted so much wisdom. And yes, you subscribe to his newsletter and all that, but what you get out of that. And the fact is, I have sent Barry emails just about anything, and he's always responded, always been responsive, even responded on the weekends. And sometimes it's about stuff that has nothing to do with anything. I mean, he's just a great person. So, yeah, I'm with you, Rick. As we get older, these are the things that we think about, and I hope that the people that are behind this, have a better road to walk down than what we had.
Kevin, very well said. And Rick, thank you for that thoughtful segment. We'll come back to that again too. And if we said your name, please, and you want to come back on here, let us know. We'd love to have you back, or if you can, of course. So we're going to change gears again. It wouldn't be a Three Guys episode if we didn't ask Kevin to ask the question, are you kidding me?
Well, I really struggled with this segment today, and I'll tell you why. There's been so much going on in the world. I didn't know whether to start with Bennifer or Elon, because he always has something going on, or Mark Zuckerberg all of a sudden having a bromance with Donald Trump. I mean, there's just lots going on. But what I decided to do, and this actually piggybacks pretty well off the segment we just had when we were talking about that parental role that you take as you grow older in life, is headline today: CrowdStrike cost Delta $500 million. And I thought about that, and I will tell you now, being on a podcast with two marketing guys, they are both high-fiving themselves over that headline, because that brought people to click on that and open it up. But here's the second part of the question that's asked, and this is from an old country boy from Mart, Texas. CrowdStrike may have started the fire, but why didn't they have any fire trucks there when the fire hydrant was turned on? That's kind of the question I have, because as I recall, once everybody started getting back online, well, United wasn't really having the problem anymore, and American wasn't. And Southwest was one of the first ones to get back online because they blew their whole system up last year. And even Spirit was getting back online, but yet here was Delta struggling through this whole thing, trying to get it all back online. And the only thing I could hang my hat on is, well, Delta must be flying 3 times as many people as anyone else is in the airline industry. But somehow I don't think that's the answer. So I would leave you with this thought. Did CrowdStrike really cost him $500 million? Or did CrowdStrike create an issue that was already a problem within Delta that then cost him $500 million? That's a question that should be asked.
There you go, Kevin. Are they kidding us? So with that, I think it's time to maybe start winding things down here. So again, if you're a fan of the show, you'd like to be on here, you got a topic for us, you've got an answer to one of the questions we've asked, or someone else you'd love us to see on the show, just send us a message and we'd be delighted. Normally this is when I sign off, but as you guys know, from time to time, I do like to shake things up a little, just to keep things a little lively. So for the benefit of our podcast viewers today, we are going to do a dance-off. That's right. The 3 guys are going to do a dance-off. Rick, I need you to cue some music for me. Your choice. Wait. Hold on. Okay, we're going to have to put that one on hold. Looks like my new CrowdStrike update just came in, so I need to install that.
Thank God.
We got to go, guys.